back to Window on the World, and I'm your host, Karsten Gilbert. And today we have some students that got the opportunity to travel with Missouri Southern abroad. How you guys doing?
We're doing
good. You enjoying your summer so far?
Yes.
Or what's left of it, I guess. So where exactly did you guys study? Where did you travel abroad to?
I always mess this up, but Sweden, Norway, Denmark, and
Ireland.
Yes, Dublin, Ireland.
And a little bit of DC.
Oh, wow, there you go.
Yeah.
That was fun.
That was unscheduled.
So did you guys take time in the semester or even before you guys went to meet and set a schedule or to learn more about why you were going over to prepare yourself for this trip?
Me personally, I wing things, so I didn't plan anything. But I don't know.
I know Frank planned it extensively, but we kind of got looped in last minute.
This is our 25th year of traveling on this trip, so we kind of have the logistics nailed down. It is a pretty extensive trip. We're spending 5 weeks abroad, 4 of those largely based in Scandinavia, and then the 5th week is some of its travel time, and then we pick a European destination capital to compare and contrast with the Scandinavian cities that we visit.
Oh, wow. So how long was your guys' trip exactly?
37 days? Yeah.
Like 5 weeks?
Somewhere in there.
It's 5 weeks. I can't remember. It was
5 weeks just gone.
Oh, wow. So what exactly were you guys studying over there?
Art history and photography.
Oh, wow. I'm sure there was a lot of opportunities to take pictures over there, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So how was your travel experience? Have you guys been on a plane before? Have you gone over the big ocean yet?
Listen. Okay. So yes, I've been on a plane before, but I've never experienced so many delays and just craziness. I feel like I've gotten all my bad airplane things out of the way. So I hope my next trip just easy peasy, nothing stressful, nothing.
Yeah, that was an experience. I mean, I've flown a lot, but the amount of delays that we had, and it was just problem after problem. We'd get our next plane set up, and we boarded one of them, and then had to get off of it, and we would have missed our connecting flight if we got onto the plane that they had set up. So it was an experience. But when we finally got there, we were kind of able to relax into routine. It was nice.
Yeah, really. The minute we got into Sweden, then everything calmed down.
Never have to sleep in an airport again.
No.
Yeah,
that was
pretty cool.
That was exciting.
On the floor.
Oh, yeah.
The floor, yeah.
I bet that was really comfortable.
Most definitely.
Yeah.
And
It
then
was
we got
cool,
a nice
though.
It's the best 3 hours of sleep of my life.
And we got a free trip to DC, so that
and
was
a
pretty
hotel and a meal and all these nice airport blankets.
Some of them stayed with us until we got to Sweden, and I almost brought mine home, but I ditched it last minute.
Oh.
It wouldn't fit in the suitcase.
Yeah.
Was your trip into D.C., did something happen in the airplane?
Yeah,
delay?
storms in Texas, I think, delayed our flight. They didn't want to risk it, so we were stuck waiting for about, 2-3 hours?
Just 2, but
just 2
it was
hours.
enough they were backed up all across the country.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Ugh.
It was pretty cool. I never would have thought I've been to DC before, and I never thought I would have went again. So it was pretty cool to go back and revisit all the places I've been.
So on the fly, we kind of had to logistically figure out what art museums we could visit there so we could at least, have some value of the trip.
Oh, yeah, and I'm sure there was a lot of them there that you could go to. So when you guys were over in Europe and Sweden, where were you? What did you go to a lot of museums there? What ones did you go to?
I don't think we could name all of the ones we went to. We went to a lot.
I know in Stockholm we went to the National History Museum, so they would have a straight massive Viking setup, rune stones, some little figurines of ships, the ancient town of Burke where they would trade and all that fun stuff, and they even had skeletons. And it was spearheads, shields. It was amazing to look at, and a little freaky too.
Plus the treasure room too in the
they
basement.
had an entire Viking hoard of treasure, and you could just look at it and be like, oh, that came from this country, this village, and so on. It was wonderful.
Wow.
I think the most memorable one for me was the Aachen Museum. I don't know which city it was in, but
it's just outside of Copenhagen.
Okay, yeah, I thought it was Copenhagen.
Yeah. And that one had so you would turn the corner, and all you would see are these clowns
Oh,
just
that one.
sitting down, spaced out by themselves, and they look like real people, and I was like, I freaked out. I'm not gonna
That was
lie.
the Arkin Museum.
Yeah.
Had Damien Hirst in it too.
And I was like, no. But after a while, like I started walking around, and I thought one was gonna grab my ankle.
Yeah, that was unsettling.
That's the neat mix of this trip is we're dealing with and looking at the ancient history as well as the contemporary art. So Viking is a very common thread that we go through in all the main cities we're at, because most of Scandinavia is heavily influenced by that. And that's part of why we went to Dublin this year, is because Dublin itself was a city founded by Vikings. And then the other thing we do is we're also going to the contemporary art museum. So we're seeing the latest and the most cutting edge art that's being created in the planet right now.
Did you guys have a favorite place that you went to that you found was most valuable for your education while going over there?
Oh, that's tough.
I think I have a new respect for like sculptures. Like when we went to go see, I can't say his name. It was like
Thorvaldsson?
Yeah. Yeah. It was crazy. Like you walked in and there was like different rooms that had like really big sculptures and like semi big and like small ones, and it was just like really like classical almost like sculptures, and like this one person made this, and it was really intense.
Wow.
Yeah, that is a thread, because Thorvaldsson was a neoclassical sculptor, and then soon after that in France we have Rodin, who broke away from all that. And then in the other cities we visit, Oslo and Stockholm, we visit sculptors who were Rodin's apprentices, and then went back to Scandinavia and created work that was not quite in the same vein as his. It had a little bit of Scandinavian influence to it, but very distinctive and kind of interesting, because in Stockholm, the artist there, Carl Mills, also lived in the United States and worked at Cranbrook Art Academy. So there's a bunch of his work in the United States, including Kansas City and St. Louis.
Wow. So a lot of home can work out with you that. So how was your guys' experience coming from Joplin, Missouri to all these different countries? Was there some culture shock going on, or were you guys prepared for all of that?
Not too much.
I mean, there was like a fair amount of culture shock, but it was, I don't know, something that really was strange to me. It's like every Swede eats with a knife and fork for like every meal. And so like the American habit of like, you know, just like how we use our silverware where you like put down your fork, it was just really strange, because like there's no, if your salad's about to fall off your fork, you don't like help it on, they have a knife. And I felt very uncultured.
Because you didn't have a salad helper?
No, my finger was like not appropriate there.
It's very peaceful over there. We stayed in the Moljofogoskola, and it is surrounded by just forests and trails, and when it rained, a bunch of slugs would just be crawling, and you're like, that's a little weird. We don't have that over there, because you normally just see snails. And then it was actually quite dry when we got there, and it was almost perpetually 70 degrees. It was the most peaceful place I've probably been to, and it was a good break from just kind of all the crazy news here, and it was wonderful.
Actually, the first week was hot. It was like 85 there when we got, and it was like, oh, this is not the Sweden I'm familiar with.
It was nice though.
But then it settled down.
Swimming. There was a pond out behind the school, and so the pond,
It's a lake.
Sorry, the pond. There was a lake, and so the Swedish students were there for about like the first week that we were there, and then they were leaving because their semester was over. So like after dinner every night, we'd all go swimming. It was really fun.
Wow.
Diving off the diving board.
Yeah. So I know you guys took, probably when you're studying photography, you took a lot of pictures while you were there. Maybe we could look at some of those. So when you're studying photography, how many cameras, did you all take cameras over there? And just every moment was oh, look, we have these up.
Most of these photos are going to be like group shots that I took. The photography that the students did is black and white print photography. So they actually have a physical product. So, you know, Phoebe brought a couple examples of what she was doing. But we don't have that uploaded on the camera.
Okay. Those are beautiful. And here's just with the Vikings, of course.
And so it's going to be quite the gamut. A lot of these are going to be at the art museums or in the cities. We did have a pretty unique moment on this trip where we were invited by a Swedish parliamentarian to visit Parliament. She gave us a personal tour of the Swedish Parliament for about 2 hours.
Wow, that is cool.
And really focused on the artworks. They've got 4,000 pieces of artwork in the Swedish Parliament. So she talked a little bit about that, as well as the political climate and how the politics work.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, we should be getting political science credit for this trip too.
Would you want to show some of your pictures again?
Yeah. I can pull up more if needed.
Yeah.
But these two specifically, do you want me to hand them to you?
Sure. Or you can hold them up if you'd like.
Okay. Here, I'll give you one and I'll hold up one.
Okay.
I can't remember the exact site we
Ekovalen?
Ekovalen, something like that. Can't necessarily pronounce it.
It's a prehistoric grave site in Sweden.
Dates back to about 300 BC. And it was ancient. It was like just ancient burial site, and it was kind of spooky being in there.
We very nearly spent the night there just because.
Yeah, we really wanted to, but he was like, don't do that.
Wow, that is interesting.
There's a lot of sheep there, too.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. They were scared of us.
Wow, these are beautiful pictures, and this is what you guys just created through your trips? Wow.
Analog photography.
Wow.
So they learned to develop the film first, which... That was about a week of frantic texting. And I could tell when they figured that out because those messages died down. And then a new set started to come up when they actually started doing the printing of the prints that they wanted to keep.
We have some more pictures showing up. Is this at a museum?
That's the Viking Ship Museum in Oslo.
That was my favorite photo that I took there, and that's the first thing you see when you walk in. And it is absolutely massive. Like, the entire building is structured around these ships, and they have like 3 different ones, and they were all burial ships. So I think 2 of them were for women, like high-ranking women, and they would have like all kinds of treasures. They would decorate their ships with what I researched, the Osberg style, which is kind of like a gripping beast motive. And they would do this on everything. And they would bury their ships, and they would use them on warships, pretty much everything. And it was hauntingly beautiful there.
Wow.
Yeah, these are the best recovered vessels that we have in the world. Other cities in Scandinavia have some that they found, but unless you are really an expert, it's hard to even tell it's a ship because there's so little left. But these 3, I mean, one of them is almost entirely intact. So that's really just kind of really the most soulful, most moving part of the whole trip, I think, is going in that museum.
Spent 2 hours in there.
Yeah, I could spend the whole day. Yeah, that.
I really wanted
to.
But then it's interesting because in Stockholm they have a 15th century ship that they recovered. So then you get this very different, almost 1,000 years later ship. But it's also incredibly cool, and it's also almost completely preserved.
Wow.
We went to the Swedish palace, right?
We went to the palace in Stockholm.
That's a picture from there.
Oh,
and
wow.
It was incredibly ornate, and just, I think you'd have to use your entire life savings to get a chandelier from there.
Yeah,
but they were available from the company that makes them.
Yes. Very nice. And then the rune stones from their history museum, and that is, I think, religious painting of their gods, and it's Odin and one of his horses, Sleipnir, and he's bringing in Viking warrior to Valhalla, I think, as far as I know, as I researched that. And they had just all these crazy big runestones at their history museum when they had their entire exhibit just dedicated to Vikings, and you would just walk by and be like, this thing was taller than you, and you're like, oh, they just kind of carved that out of nowhere. All right.
Wow.
So there's the Vasa.
Yeah.
So is that a ship you could go on?
No. No, you're not allowed to go on any of those.
You could crawl around it.
But they've got basically scaffolding. They've built an entire building around the ship, and up to like the first level of the mast.
Yeah.
And then they've got scaffolding and ramps and levels, so you can see every level of the ship.
You can see with the railing in that photo where the people are standing as well. That's like the middle of the ship as far as like it goes down like another like 2 stories. And so it was massive.
Wow.
Very humbling.
Yeah.
It was a ship that was built to kick Poland's butt, but it only made it about 500, not even a meter,
3 miles.
not even a kilometer out of the port, and it just
Sank.
just lifted over and sank.
Overloaded with cannons.
They had 2 rows of cannons, which,
Oh.
of course, they didn't have like a model ship to test this until they get the big deal, and it's all like ornately carved and everything. They get it out, and it's just like,
Decoration.
So apparently prototyping is an important part of the artistic process.
yes.
Oh, that's me. We went to a Viking restaurant in Stockholm, right?
Yes.
And they had, authentic food. They would have historical explanations. I got a dwarf chicken, which I'm poking at there, and their knives, their cups, the things that would hold up their cups were all like handmade by a blacksmith, I believe. And here I am holding up a knife, just kind of been like, hey, what's up? I don't know why it's on there.
When we have the Nordic semester this next semester, we're actually having a Viking food expert do a couple of presentations.
Oh, wow.
So I think that's kind of a nice little segue.
I'm excited.
Yeah.
That was in Dublin?
That looks like Dublin.
Yeah, it looks like
Yeah.
Dublin.
Yep.
That building was great.
Just wandering the streets of Dublin.
That's Dublin.
Yeah.
That's our first
That was our
day?
first.
That was our first
that was a
meal.
lot.
That's our first meal, yes.
I feel like for a lot of us, that was like our first beer.
Yeah,
Oh.
it was a good pub.
And for a couple of them, the last beer. It's like, ew.
That would be me.
That's one of the burial ships, I believe.
Well, that's at the Viking Ship Museum, yeah.
Yeah, those were. They would even have like explanations. They would have like a holograph like story going on where it explained how it was done. Like they would add in some of like the Viking religion, and it was gorgeous. And they would even explain who was on the ship, what they had with them, and like it was weird because a lot of them were ransacked after the burial. So, so you're kind of missing out on what all was on there.
Yeah.
I think that's like one of the sleigh heads. A
Yeah,
lot of
there
sleigh
was 2 sleighs and 2 wagons.
I think so, yeah. They were really ornate in terms of decorating.
It's probably the most extensive find of wooden artifacts because wood rots over time. So historically, we have almost no fiber arts. We have almost no wood arts except for maybe from Egypt, somewhere where it's a really dry climate. So this is like pretty unique in the world to have these objects of that age of such a wet area. And that's a Norwegian stave church, which is those are all Christian churches, but it's a unique style that only developed in Norway.
Did you guys visit a lot of the churches while you were there?
Not so much on this trip. It kind of depends on the first city we go to. If it's church heavy, then I'll kind of make that be part of the focus of the trip. But our trip to Dublin was so truncated. We were only there for like a day and a half, so it really became a race to go to whatever art museums we still could.
Get to as many pubs as possible.
Oh, that's that. What's the thing that you bought? The saddle.
It's a heddle.
Yeah, the
of
heddle.
sorts. So it's like a 6-strand weaving, and the ribbons that they wear and their Norwegian folk dress. They hold up their stockings with like hand woven ribbons that are about like this wide.
Oh, wow.
And so I got a kit that can help you learn how to weave that.
Oh, cool.
And that was at the Viking Folk Art Museum.
Yeah, that was one
Or
of my
not
favorite.
Viking, the Norwegian Folk Art Museum.
That was one of my favorite museums because.
Oh, and there they are eating porridge.
Yes, they have all these historical buildings that they like either built or brought in. Most of them are brought in.
They're
I
all
think.
brought in.
Yeah, so they have like people that work there that are in traditional costume and stuff, and so you got to see all these different time periods. And this particular cottage that we were in, there was a lady making porridge, and we're like, "What are you making? It smells really good." We were hungry. She was like, "Oh, we're making porridge," and I was like, "Oh, okay." So she gave us some, and it was interesting.
That's during
Yeah,
summer.
Yes, and we were there. We were in Sweden for Midsummers, which is the longest day of the year.
Equivalent to Christmas over there, and it's a very big holiday. It's like around the summer solstice, and we got to make a but I don't know what to call it. A wreath? I almost called it a halo. We took wildflowers just from all over the place around the campus, which was kind of terrifying because there were bugs everywhere. There was a bee flying near the window. It was crazy. But we got really creative. We got to, tie these flowers on with wire, and then we hung it up over the table, and we did the traditional songs. We ate traditional foods, and it was just wonderful.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah,
And
in
she
that
is
picture, we're
hanging
hanging the wreath. And you can see I'm wearing flowers on my hair, so it's traditional for unmarried maidens to wear flowers in their hair. And there's also this tradition that you're supposed to jump over, if you're an unmarried woman, you're supposed to jump over 7 different fences and pick up 7 different wildflowers on your way home and put them under your pillow and sleep. And then you're supposed to dream about your husband. I dreamed about slugs, so I don't know how accurate that is, but I did it.
We're trying to figure out if one of the fences was, if one
close.
continuous fence
Yeah.
that we counted as 2.
Yeah. I don't know.
So did you guys enjoy all the food that you had over there?
Not the fish.
Not the
Not the-
fish.
what was it called? The little
The herring.
Herring.
Pickled herring.
The pickled herring. That was terrifying.
Herring's sort of the bane of the trip every year.
That was on our way to Stockholm.
Everyone does pretty well up until the herring shows up, and then it drops off dramatically.
All the food that we had at the school was really good because the chef, I think, made whatever was most fresh that week, and so everything we had was made from scratch, and
Very,
it was
very
very
healthy.
good.
Wow.
Yeah, it all
Yeah.
tasted really clean. It didn't really have any of the preservatives or the chemicals in it that we have in our food here. So that was a bit of an adjustment coming home because all of a sudden the stuff that I usually liked didn't taste very good because I
Yeah.
was used to the cleaner foods.
Yeah.
Were the portions a lot smaller, or do you think they're about the same as they would be over here?
At school, it was a buffet, so it was kind of up
Oh,
to us.
wow.
Strange enough, the portions were exactly the same. But
Funny
no,
how
I
that
think going out,
follows you.
if we ordered dinner somewhere, it was about
The same, yeah.
the same. A lot of places it's difficult to get beyond sort of meat and potatoes as sort of the items on the menu.
Mm-hmm.
So our vegan traveler had difficulty in a couple of the cities.
Oh, that would be.
Ooh,
Yeah,
walking
that would
around
be-
looking
that would be
for a
hard.
place. Like, do you have vegan food? No. Ah, dang. Now I gotta go.
Or
to
it would
another
always
one.
be a veggie burger, and
Oh,
so
yeah,
like
a
everywhere we
veggie
went,
burger.
she'd be
Oh,
stuck with
yeah.
the veggie burger. We're like, Sarah, we're so sorry, but we're so hungry.
I wasn't
Please
sorry.
eat it.
Oh. So did you guys walk everywhere that you went?
Yep.
Yeah, our last day in Stockholm before we flew back, we walked. Mine said 17 and a half miles, so that was a long day, but it was fun. I think we walked an average about 5 every day to get to
Wow.
like the grocery store in town in Wolfe.
Yeah.
You had to walk around the lake. And
Came back Olympic athletes.
Yeah. I was about to say, would you come back to Joplin and walk to the grocery store from your house?
I
don't
actually
trust-
thought about it.
I
Yeah.
thought about it, but
If
I don't
it hadn't
trust
have
it.
been 90 degrees every day, yes, I maybe would have.
Yeah.
I'm missing it. Yeah, like a couple days after we came back, I went and actually hiked out by Wildcat Glades and stuff and walked around out there. And I went all the way down from Reddings Mill to Wildcat to Shoal Creek Bridge and on the other side and walked back. It was only 5 miles, and I was very, very disappointed.
Yeah. It's funny how that can follow you from when you're doing it every day, and then you come out here and it's like, oh, I have a car, but I would rather walk, I guess.
Pay for gas.
Yeah. Was there anything else that stuck out to you during the trip? Did you guys have any fun memories or just memories that stuck out
should
to
tell
you?
her about the murder bird.
The murder bird? Oh, are
murder
we going to
bird.
bring that here?
We
okay. All right. So our dorms were all kind of connected. So they would have one large building, but it would be separated into how many rooms? Like 7 or 8 rooms into each small building.
I think 8.
About 8
Yeah.
rooms, yeah. And so we would walk back because there was a main building where we would go to cook our food. And Marilyn, she had left the dorm to go cook her food, and she was like, "Yeah, there's a really weird bird here who's just sitting at this door, like one of the dorms beside ours." And it's just staring at the door like it's this little black bird, not really doing anything.
The
Doesn't
doors
even
are
move.
glass, so it's just
Yeah.
like staring into
You could
the
see
dorm.
right through it, and we weren't really sure what it was doing. And so we come back, like I left because I was done eating, and this bird is still there. I'm like, oh, that's a little freaky. And then they all come back, and I'm like, hey guys, did you see the bird? And they're like, yeah, he's still there. And so we dubbed it the murder bird. I guess because we all thought like if you were looking at something,
Well, it was
would come out
starting
of
to
the
get
woods
dark.
and get you.
Yeah, and everybody's all like, "This is the perfect way for like a serial killer to get your
Yeah.
attention. You're gonna get
Like a
distracted, and
bait.
they're gonna come murder you."
Yeah,
And
it was
so
freaky.
there was a group of. I was not one of these people. I stayed in the dorm.
Yeah,
Did
we
you
went
go?
in and
Yeah, I
Because you were
was.
They
scared
went
of
to
the
go try
bird.
to poke it. And it didn't move. You guys got really close to it, right?
yeah, we got really close to it, and it didn't even budge. Like,
And
didn't
I
even
was
look at us.
up the next morning first,
And
and
it
I
was
walked
gone.
by, and it was not there. And we were like,
Yeah.
Therefore,
okay.
Still a
So it's the
mystery.
murder
Oh,
bird.
wow.
Yeah,
And everyone made it back to the United States alive. So
we did.
Yes.
Yes.
minor anxiety of the murder bird. Yeah.
So
think it was-
at best, it was an attempted murder bird.
So do you guys have any advice that you'd give students that go on this trip next? So would you give them any specific specific advice?
When you pack your carry-on, have at least 2 changes of clothes of
Yes.
everything you're going to need in the event you get laid over. I had 2 changes of clothes, and I was still washing my clothes in the sink at like the airport and in the hotel room.
Oh.
So if you do get stuck over, you'll feel a lot better if you have the stuff you need with you for sure.
Always be prepared to be stuck in DC for 2 days and to sleep in an airport. You never know.
Gosh.
Typically, we don't fly through DC, so we're hoping that doesn't happen again.
Yeah.
Almost went to London. Almost. This close. And they're like, nope, you gotta get off the plane. Bye.
I would say just in general be open-minded to try different things, like the weird fish that we had. No one, or the just
The different
just-
sodas and the different
Yeah.
candies that are a little bit unfamiliar, but
exactly, yeah.
Their way of life. Like,
Would you guys take this trip again?
Most definitely.
kind of want to live there.
Same.
to be
Yeah,
honest.
I could live in Sweden.
Yeah.
So do you feel like this trip helped you out with your future career opportunities and your studies?
Yeah, I had like a lot of like aha moments and like different ideas for my particular art that I want to do.
Uh-huh.
So
Wow. It's
I
fun
would do
now.
it for the historical sites again, like the little graveyard we went to. I
Wow.
would love to see them all again. We went to, 5 different castles, all kinds of historical monuments, beaches, museums, and then just learning about different cultures. It was wonderful.
Wow. Well, that's great that you guys had that opportunity through Southern to go travel to these various countries and cities and learn about your actual study that you want to go into. That's really great. Wow. Well, thank you guys for coming. I hope you enjoyed the show as much as you enjoyed your trip, hopefully. There isn't any birds, but maybe we can make that happen next time.
We prefer not.
No murder.
We can find some Joplin crows or squirrels and just make it an inside joke. Well, thank you so much for coming in. And so my name, thank you guys for joining us again on A Window to the World. It's Karsten Gilbert, and thank you guys for joining us again.